Hey there. Welcome to Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of Her Truth Revealed, where women like myself and my beautiful guest today, Rachel, talk about the unraveling of midlife, which sounds like the parting of the Red Sea, and it can be. But what we really are here to do is to talk about the journeys that we go through individually and collectively in the life that we live. Beauty, pain, suffering, joy, bliss, and changes. That's what we're here to talk about. And today I have a very special guest. I met Rachel a few weeks ago. We were both speakers at an event, and she spoke to my soul. I think she spoke to everyone's soul, to tell you the truth, because there was 4 speakers, and the majority of people asking questions afterwards were, this is directed to Rachel. So she really brought to light what it means to be in our midlife and to connect to our soul. And one of the questions that was asked in that evening is, what is the soul? So before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's listening, to those who share, to those who review, those who follow our social media pages, comment, engage, love us, because then we continue to bring these amazing humans to the table to share with us their journey of midlife, unraveling joy, and all the ways we can celebrate who we are. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our beautiful guest today, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so grateful to be here. And likewise, I am also speaking to a beautiful soul. And I think we connected so well at the event. We were both had not met each other. And I was just so drawn to your name, Wonderful, because you are wonderful. You people at ease, and we spoke to each other's souls. So I'm super honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Before we get into a little bit of your history, I really wanted to highlight your book because I loved what you said about it. What you said was this book was your journal,
Yeah.
your journal of your journey.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a really different way to, most people who are promoting their books, they give you this whole spiel about where it comes from, which is beautiful. But the way you said it was kind of like, without saying it, if I can do it, you can do it too. And here's how I did it. So tell us what the book is called, where it came from, and what it really is about. And if you have a copy, yes, please. Yes, there it is.
It's called Peaceful Revolution. It came out earlier this year. And really, the book it's my journey. And it's really about aligning our brain and soul to transform inside out. It was really my journey in how to do that. And so, the book started out as my journal. It was really me reflecting and having a space. Starting in 2018, I actually looked at my journal, which I still read to this day in writing,
Wow.
like my hand script of part of my reflection in the morning. But it was really like reflecting about my dark nights of the soul. And so I had the commitment to myself that I would write every morning. And it was just like 5 minutes to kind of really understand who I was, what was I going through, got super curious on how I could change that because I felt stuck in a cycle. I felt super stuck
Mm.
into feeling these dark nights of the soul and having gone through therapy, worked with shamans, worked with coaches. And there were a lot of modalities that were starting to work. And then I got into neuroscience and I got super
Mm.
fascinated about how does the brain work? How can it change? And then how can you marry and harmonize the brain and the soul to be able to work together? And so through my practice of ritual and writing, I came up with a framework that worked for myself. And my background is in leadership development and coaching for the past 17 years. And so there were frameworks that I would use with my clients. There were frameworks that I would use for myself. And different modalities. And so the book eventually came, and I didn't realize that I was going to write a book. That was not kind of my
Ah.
intention, but I suddenly had 300 pages of, oh my gosh, I've got something here. And my father was an author, my mother an editor, and I was always told myself I
Ah.
was a bad speller. I could never write a book. And I thought to myself, you know what? I got to put this into writing. Like I've really got to make
Mhm.
it real. And so a couple things, it was really about being able to share my journey with people because as you just said, people have the ability, every person has the opportunity and the ability to transform from inside out. That means becoming more self-aware, becoming conscious of limiting beliefs, understanding how to change them from inside out. And as we become more conscious as humans, then we're able to be models and provide inspiration for others to do the same. And that way we make the world a better place. So that's really everybody has
Mm.
the opportunity to resoul and resurge. And that's kind of the foundation of the book.
Wow. I felt all of that in multiple ways. Like I I mean, like, I think all of us out here, women, we're like, I want to write a book, but where do we begin? How do we start? And I love that you just took this simple act of writing every day, committed to that, to express yourself from out here, from in here to out here, but also that it reflects this deeper journey that I
Hmm.
don't think any of us get to escape. None of us get to escape this dark night of the soul.
Absolutely true.
But how to one of the things you said during your talk was you really framed a lot of your journey through the dark night of the soul in
Hmm.
these things called rituals,
Yeah.
which my brain really attached to because I'm like, well, I'm a recovering Catholic, and that's all I know is how to be ritualistic in my forms of
Hmm.
spiritual growth. But then this is an internal version of it.
Right.
And so I do want to ask you one of the questions that was asked you that evening. What was your discovery? What is the soul? Like, what is
Yeah.
it?
That's a great question. So, book in my mind is our essence, our heart,
Mm.
our desires, our values, the essence of the true self. And most of the time, as we have experiences in our life through societal pressures, through our upbringing, through cultural, whatever it might be, we have these experiences that we then decide to take on a perception about ourselves. And so oftentimes that can cloud our soul. And so we're living through external factors of validation, seeking approval, believing in my case, like I wasn't enough, smart enough, good enough. There was something wrong with me. Bad things happen. I'm not deserving. Like this was kind of the red tape I call kind of going into the
Mm.
background of my head that was really created a paradigm of thinking for myself that I truly believed that I thought it was a fact, that it completely clouded my soul. And so I
Mm.
got super interested into the neuroscience of how to reverse that and how to uncover and become even aware at the first time. I have in the book something called the Resoul framework. And the first part is revealing that. How do you reveal your
Mm.
soul and how do you start to observe your
That's
part of
good.
that? That is through writing for me and ritual. And change happens when we stop forgetting. And based on neuroscience, when we can change the brain, and if just these micro moments micro rituals of going through introspection to be able to uncover and then be able to reveal, then to resoul ourselves over a period of time. And that is about realigning with what matters most to us. And that is incorporating our bodies, our minds, and our souls to be able to work together in order to resurge, take inspired action, and to really believe that our lives can be different and that we have the choice to be able to do that. And that change can be permanent, but we have to really, and it doesn't have to be hard. It just takes patience and consistency through daily ritual.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying it doesn't have to be hard. It's about consistency. It's
Right.
about making that decision of intention every day, no matter how small, right? No matter how little it is. Um, but now I'm really curious, like the Rachel we're speaking to today, how was she cultivated? Where did she come from? Like, were you a shaman? Were you in the coaching world? Were you in corporate America? Were you a mechanic? I mean,
Yeah, great
I feel like
question.
you never know where
Ye-
people started from that
Yeah,
journey. And then the middle is kind of the dark night of the soul. And
yeah,
then now here you are. Tell
sure.
us a little bit about that.
Great question. So, grew up in Boulder, Colorado, in a pretty volatile family, a family that was pretty challenging. That a father who was very narcissistic. That I really learned to give up my own needs. To kind of, it was
Mm,
always a bit of a moving target. And so those experiences followed me through a lot of my life. The first, I would say, half of my life, I got my MBA, moved to Seattle, Washington, got my first job within a corporate environment, marketing and advertising, working with big high profile clients like Amazon and Microsoft. And quickly I thought, I got my first job and thought my dream job, that my life was solved forever. But very
right.
quickly I realized it was more than the job, but it was really how I saw myself. It was about navigating the politics and how I saw myself within those environments. Once, and because I started to lose my confidence even more, I would experience severe anxiety and depression. I was doing the job because I thought I should. I remember a manager sitting me down and saying to me, "Where's that passion? Where's that fire? You have a great skill set." And I was like, whoa, I thought I was really great at faking it. And it hit me that I wasn't doing something I wanted to do. And I was at an all-time low of I felt like I couldn't hack it. I couldn't hack the corporate environment. And so
Mm,
those experiences followed me along for a few different jobs until I decided to take a little bit of a hiatus. I moved up to Whidbey Island, and decided,
beautiful.
which was gorgeous. But the reason I was like, I can't hack the corporate environment. And I ended up becoming a jewelry designer because I wanted to create. I wanted to create from the soul within. I wanted to create peace. I wanted to create impact for people through beautiful things. And one day I woke up to say, you know what? I missed that business aspect. And you know what? Ready to get back into the game, but on my terms. And I had this opportunity to go to Microsoft and to help build teams at Microsoft. And I recognized back in my kind of corporate environment and marketing and advertising, what I loved to do was help people, make a difference in people's lives,
Mm,
help people play to their strengths, and pull out the aspects of their soul into whatever it was that they were doing. And most importantly, help them realize the lens through which they saw themselves determined the actions they took and the results they got. And if they weren't getting the results, it was an opportunity to take a look at limiting beliefs and to be able to change them. And so this opportunity at Microsoft was an amazing one. Ended up meeting a coach at Microsoft, went through her coaching process to realize, and this was almost 20 years ago, to realize
oh, so when coaching wasn't even quite, yeah.
exactly. And I realized, and it was such an invaluable process for me that I recognized how I could shift and change, and I developed my confidence again. I understood the connections between my thought patterns and belief systems and my body and how I could shift that. And so I worked with a lot of different healers as well during that time, and still do. But to realize coaching is what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
because I saw how I could feel and change. And in those dark nights of the soul, that I could get myself out with more resilience and more quickly. And I wanted to help be a catalyst for other people's transformations through the tools that I had learned and help people through their internal struggles, no matter where they were. And so, as a result, I left Microsoft and became a full time coach. Still have my coaching business. It's Facets Coaching. Over 17 years, I've had the opportunity to work with a variety of organizations across the nation, literally helping people transform, cultures transform, to bring more consciousness into the world. And that's how the mission that I've had. And that's kind of where I am now. And from that, the Resol Revolution and bringing that, even kind of going deeper into organizations, into the fabric, and helping people shift and change.
I really admire this like storyline of, you didn't just give up on corporate completely. You went from corporate to like jewelry making, a huge contrast. And then
Yeah.
you went from city, real hubbub space to this quiet oceanside, seaside space. But then when it called you, you went back, which
Yeah.
I feel like has this sense of surrender to it, right? So, and that's kind of what I gained from you in that energetic field where we were together in that talk is when people were asking, well, how do I know? How do I know when, I need to have a job and I need to pay bills but I want to connect to my soul. How do I know what that is?
Yeah.
And you shared these stories of I left, I came back, I left and I came back. So where are you in the iteration of your life today as you're writing this book? Because so you went back to Microsoft, you started your coaching business, and your coaching business started speaking to corporate spaces. And
Yeah.
I love how you said that it's, about bringing the consciousness,
Yeah.
because that's a whole nother level of conversation, right?
Absolutely.
So now, where are you at today, and how do you help us not necessarily to wrap our heads around it or have a reasoning behind it, but what is it for us when I feel like you're so brave. You just bravely was like, all right, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do that. How do we infuse that same bravery in us to where we can walk away, come back, then pursue another road, and then do another iteration of our life?
Yeah, I think that thank you for saying that. In the moment and in the time, I didn't feel brave at all because, there was a time where literally was in bed. I couldn't get out of bed. I felt like my soul was dying. I was
Mm,
experiencing extreme anxiety, extreme depression. Also, my body was almost shutting down in different ways where there were doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. I was experiencing symptoms of autoimmune. And
mm,
what I didn't realize was it was my mind and body screaming out to me like, "You are in conflict of your soul. You are in conflict of your
ooh,
values. You are in conflict with what you truly wanna do." And so my body just kept speaking louder and louder until I realized I had to do something. And so for me, really taking 10 steps back to recognize that the essence of who we are based on our core values, our deeper sense of purpose, our contribution fuels our success. And so rather than thinking of
mm.
success externally of like, I should do this job, it makes sense on paper, I've done this for X amount of time, like the
Right, I have to
jewelry
pay bills.
exactly have to pay, and we all have to pay bills. Absolutely. But what's interesting is today, I am still doing exactly what I was doing in some sense or the form. It's just a different format. So, as an example, my jewelry business was called Create from the Soul Within. I'm helping people to create the lives and architect their realities from within versus externally. And so, where I am today is actually talking about soul in corporations, talking about
Mm,
because that for a long, I led a workshop series for a long time called Leading Through a Different Lens. And it was a lot of the same concepts of like really being able to identify and understand what our limiting beliefs are, that our thoughts are not facts, and where shifting a paradigm of being to be able to transform and move forward in taking inspired action. And so when we are aligned with our soul, with our truth, with our deepest
mhm.
desires, and getting super clear and super honest, and then extricating the noise of all the shoulds and the fears and the self doubt, which isn't easy. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of faith, but patience that then we can start to design the lives that we want. And then also to be able to interact and create consciousness into what we do, presence in what we do. And that work feels way less daunting, and it feels almost
Yeah.
effortless. It's almost like we're in the flow, and that we all have the ability to be able to achieve that. And we also must pay the bills. We also must. So what's the biggest pie? What's the pie? What are the facets coaching, in X amount of money to sustain this kind of life? How do I create that integration of work and life? And what is it that I'm
Mm,
doing to be able to contribute to the world? So these are questions that we can ask ourselves through deep self-reflection, but do it in a place of your deepest desire, my deepest desire.
mm.
Everybody is super unique and has very different, intricate facets of their being, that shape them. And so to get super clear on that, and that is the book in a sense of helping people to get super clear on that through exercises and questions of reflection, and then rituals to be able to reshape and reprogram our brains to be able to see and lead clearly in this world. And if we show up more consciously, then we're able to engage and create purpose driven cultures, as an example. And so in my life now, this is my big pivot and my mission to bring more consciousness into the world and to help people realize that everybody has the opportunity and the responsibility actually to transform, make
Mm.
the world a better place. But that takes community and connection and support with each other. We don't have to go it alone. And so to leverage each other to be able to do that.
I love that you use the word integration because I feel like we miss that piece, especially when this conversation that feels very emotionally driven, which doesn't feel like it connects to the tangibility of life, right?
Yes.
Like there's a real kind of gap between this space right here. Like here's the soul, here's the mind, and the mind is what we need to
Yes.
be functioning all the
Yep.
time that gets us the things that we
Yep.
want. But what you're saying is actually that's not true. The truth is your soul is feeding your brain. And at some point when it starts to like lower its vibration, we're
Right.
just feeding off fumes of what we think we know, what we think we're getting to the next level, the next thing, but we're just working harder at making something work that doesn't have any more gas in it, is what I
Exactly.
hear you're saying.
Yes, and I'm really happy that you bring that up because it is about fuel. It is about energy. And I have a kind of framework in the book called body, emotion, and language. Each can be used as an entry point to be able to shift our vibration. So as an example, when we're feeling down, when we're feeling exhausted, when we're feeling it's an opportunity to kind of take a step back, to reflect, to go write it down. What is it that I'm thinking? Even peeling it back even further, right? Feeling I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, or the world's hard, or whatever it might be,
Right.
to then recognize how that's the thought pattern. And then how does it
Yeah.
impact my body and my energy? So really, and then each can be used in it as an entry point to shift that. So how could, I am enough. I am grateful.
Mhm.
I am capable of creating the life I desire. And so then that shifts your energy to have more positivity and hope and courage to take steps forward
Yeah.
versus feeling stuck. And then how does your body feel? Well, you feel more relaxed. You feel, and so
Mm.
I have this mantra, this ritual that I say, and I worked on with my coach years ago, and I still say this today. I'm relaxed, calm, and confident. And I visualize that when I'm in walking or hiking with my dog. I'm out in nature. I'm working with clients. I'm talking about the stuff I'm passionate about. And my whole body shifts in that energy when it doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
have to be high energy, but it's a grounded sense of energy versus a depleted and drained energy. And so that's ways in which we can shift our energy to be marry our brain and our soul to work together because we do need our minds through a thought pattern, which create chemicals, which create feelings, which then impact our body. And that's where the neuroscience comes in. And so if we're speaking from the heart, if we're speaking from the soul, then that impacts our bodies and we can really speak with the language that is serving us. So that is a framework in ways in which we can shift and change and transform, and also recognize if I'm feeling bad, let's take an opportunity to take 10 steps back. And then now let's reprogram ourselves by daily rituals to be able to reflect that way, to be able to be more positive. It doesn't mean not feeling the feeling, but it's moving through the
Right.
feeling to be able to get to the other side of it.
Wow. I mean, everything you just said gave me goosebumps because you really draw a beautiful picture of how it, because for us laymen's out here who like want it and can get bits and pieces from books, from
Yeah.
YouTube, from friends, from the coaches we work with, from our yoga class, right? We can get
Right.
bits and pieces, but because we're not in it all the time and we're being kind of ran by this thing called the reality of life,
Yeah.
don't know how to piece it together, right? We don't know which is step A to step B. And you just really laid it out in a way that's like, I can follow that. I
Yeah.
can really follow that. That's where, and it's about consistency of doing
Right.
that every day of like, no, when you wake up, don't start with stress.
Yeah.
Don't go there, right?
But if you even today, I still sometimes wake up in a bit of I mean, I still have dark nights of the soul. The strength is how quickly we can get back to center, and it's through this framework. And as you said,
Mhm.
like, these were over 17 plus years of listening to different people, reading different books, talking to therapists, working with shamans, coaches, and then coming up with my own methodology, consolidating this in one place. That's the Resol Revolution, so that I could follow that framework in a way that is simple, that is memorable, that
Mhm.
actually creates change, and that I could
Mhm.
integrate day to day. It's not about an all or nothing. It's not like, because I used to get so overwhelmed with how do I change, but I don't know how. And I'd read a book
Right.
and then it would go
Oh,
away, or I'd
yeah.
go to a retreat and then it would go away. But these are like 2 to 5 minutes every day, twice a day. And if we can think and walk through a simple framework, that is the foundation of our change. And we're always evolving, we're
Yeah.
always growing. But if we can apply this into everything we do, personally, professionally, and that's both together, we can shape our own reality and and how we engage in the world. And that again is about become kind of the synergy and harmony of our minds and our soul.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that you worked in your facets coaching in corporate.
Yes.
So it's interesting because there's a entire community, entire world of people who shamans, yes, got it. Yoga, yes. Rituals, yes. But it's interesting that you bring this into the space where it's a little bit more rigid in this, artificial landscape.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
how did was that something that called you, or was it a divine intervention of like, hey, that wasn't your goal? Or was it a calling of like, I can see myself in so many of the people and I really need to get in there. And then how'd you get in there? Because I can't imagine Microsoft going, yep, that sounds like a brilliant idea. Let's resoul through this thing called facets coaching. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about the conflict in that or how that kind of fits together. And is there a conflict with the people you worked with where they're just like, well, I'm here because my boss says I have to be here?
Those are all really great questions. And absolutely. Like, I had the opportunity, super grateful to work with engineers, and so what I and my husband's an engineer, and so really got into, well, how do people hear me,
Mm,
hear the language?
yes.
So it wasn't that I was going in, hey, I'm talking about soul here. I'm talking about how the brain works. I'm talking about the lens through which you see yourself. I'm talking about data. I'm talking about how you present yourself, how you come across to people. I'm talking about how to articulate and communicate effectively so other people can hear you.
Mm,
So I wasn't talking about soul at that time. This is actually very recent that I'm now using the word soul as heart, as essence, as embodiment. I talked about it through the mindset. I talked about it about lens through which we saw ourselves,
mhm,
determines the actions we take and the results we get. I talked about it through purpose and impact and influence. And so it's
Mm,
all the same thing, but in a
yeah.
way and adapted to the audience so they could hear me. And so it was what I loved, and I still love, and I still work with highly technical people who are very analytical, who actually love this work, who get to feel into the work and is into the why and how they do it. And so and to have a very simplistic framework actually is very digestible to go through.
And I think that that's the beauty of it is that we don't ever, just because of our professions or education or our current environment, doesn't make us less human, right? It's
Right.
just you just aren't living in it as often. And then there's a time where all of us kind of run into this wall of like, yeah, that's not going to work anymore.
Right.
Something's got to shift. And then that's where you come in and really bring in this essence of humanity that's all in
That's it.
us, right?
And my whole mission, humanity back into business, right? It's the human
Oh,
centric aspect. I mean, we show up to be human, we have to show up as a human. We're all
yeah,
human, we're all on the same playing field, but let's remember that we're human so that we can have authentic, healthy interactions. And how do we do that? Because we have to engage. We can be brilliant at what we do, but if you're not engaging and interacting and more and conscious of how you're engaging,
yeah.
then it doesn't matter. It all falls apart eventually,
Right.
right? It's not sustainable,
Oh, 100%. We
right?
see it in sickness, we see it in family dynamics, we see it in these really big spaces that humans live 80 to 90% of their lives, like marriages, parenting, health issues.
Yeah.
This is where it all kind of manifests when
Yes.
we're not paying attention to it. So I'm curious because for you, like on camera, you're just a glowing human being, but in person, you're even more like sunshine. So we can see that you are walking the talk. So then you're working with people that are more skeptical, just a little, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I get humanity, but I also have a skepticism to
Yeah.
the woo woo space, is
Yeah.
what people might call it, even though you're communicating it in ways that they can listen and hear it more succinctly
Hmm.
than. But my question is, in all of the years that you've done this work, where have you seen some of the most profound shifts in the people that you've worked with? Because we see it in you, but are we seeing it in the spaces where the highest level of skepticism lives? Right?
I think, it's interesting. That's a really, really great question. I think a couple things, especially in highly analytical engineering organizations, there's going to be way more skepticism. And so the fascinating thing is that, I had to keep grounded and centered and believe that
Mm,
no matter
so
what,
good.
I'm making a difference in someone's life. But I believe in this so deeply of my own transformation that I could be confident, independent of skepticism, and to keep moving forward and authentically in what I believe in. And it also, I think you mentioned earlier, not everybody is my audience, right? And if there's
Right.
alignment and there's resonance with the message and some patience and curiosity, then it's inevitable. And so I've been working with whether it's VPs of academia to directors and CFOs to engineering orgs, principals that like over years and years of the same people, which then have taken me to different companies and different companies. So there's this trust that I think has been developed over a period of time. But more importantly, it was trust in myself, not to get knocked off track when someone was like, I don't believe it, because certainly I got that. Absolutely. I still get that. But and this is where like I'm taking a big risk as, yes, it's fast, it's coaching, but now I'm starting to talk about soul. And it's not just, and so I believe there are, a couple of different audiences here. It's those within organizations and leadership development and bringing more consciousness into the corporate environment, but also people who want to resoul themselves anyway. It doesn't have to be like, so there's these two communities that actually integrate, because we have to integrate those people who are deeply curious. And I think we're seeing in the world the extremes of
Yeah.
what's happening. And so this isn't just in theory, it's practical day to day, when, because it's just so digestible and the rituals are easy to understand, backed by neuroscience and having studied that, this is where patience and change in little bits and pieces we get to see over time. And then that trust builds. So that's a long way of answering the
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying, because I feel like what you said in the first 2 seconds of your answer is how you stay grounded. And you
yeah,
didn't say it in this combative, like, "I'm gonna stand my ground" type of energy. You said it as like, "No, I'm gonna stay grounded." Because I think there's too many amazing humans who carry this gift
yeah,
where they're meant to shift the energy in the environment within a space that could be stuck or stale or complacent. But the groundedness of being in that space where the majority is like, "What is this person? Please," right? The rolling of the eyes or the sighs under the breath or I mean, TED started that way. TED Talks. Now
yeah,
everybody and their mother wants to be on a TED Talk, right? It started off not as appealing as it is today, people. It was about people in tech
yeah,
who really just wanted to share ideas that were kind of boring to the rest of us,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I agree. I feel like you're really shaking up this other, and I think Ted has just built a brand that says we're here to make a difference regardless of what it, but that's not how it started. It was very intimidating to the tech world people because they didn't want it to go outside of their little world of just they get it. They know what HTTP 546784321 is, but the rest of the world is kind of like not interested in how we can refine toilets,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of, I feel like you're the entry point of this innovative way to be an engineer, because engineers are not soulless humans. They're still
They're human.
humans. They still,
Human.
I mean, and they, to really go even deeper into that, engineers are creating from the very essence of their soul, because no imagination just comes
Right.
out of a book or a written, academic paper. It
Right.
comes from ideas and imagination, and all of that
Exactly.
is stirred because your soul is working at full speed.
It's the
That's
essence
just
right
my
there.
thought. I don't
Yeah.
know because I'm not around engineer.
Yeah, it's the essence, so I mean, I live with an engineer, and he's the ultimate of an engineer. And so, but the creativity and
Mhm.
so how to get, but that comes from the imagination, that comes from the soul. The ways in which the brain, this is the other thing. I am a very emotional decision maker. My husband's a very analytical decision maker. So part of this is really getting into understanding and accepting and in engaging, understanding how different ways people process. And so
Mm,
that's where
good.
the adaption of these rituals too, they can go across kind of people's ways of processing, so that
Right.
then people can understand each other. But at the end of the day, we're human. It's the essence of the soul. It doesn't, if we all get to kind of a different end result, it doesn't matter how we get there, right? As
Right.
long as we are, and you talked about being grounded and centered, that's part of the soul. So, as an example,
Mm.
part of my daily ritual, and I read still in my journal, how did I want to be? I am, and I start out with I am grounded and centered, independent of people and situations, because we're all going to get
Oof.
that.
So good.
And so that's the resilience of centeredness. And so, and that takes ritual and discipline each and every single day, multiple times a day, a little
Yeah.
alarm on my phone to reading my little affirmations in the morning, but to really stay centered. And that's how I can show up. Believe me, I was not, and then still I get nervous. And whether it's, talking on a podcast or delivering a message to a larger audience, one of the things that I say to myself, and I feel it and I visualize it, and that's how the brain works, is I am confident, independent of people and situations because I believe in what I do. And I know it
Mm.
works. And so, but not everybody has to everybody has the opportunity to choose or not. And it's not, it's the people who want to come
Yeah.
along to make a difference in the world. And that's another thing I say, even if stuff is hard, I'm like, if I can just make a difference today, if I can just
Yeah.
make a difference today, just by showing up.
Yes. Yes. I think that I work predominantly with women business owners in the field of healers and wellness and coaching. And what's so fascinating about what you're saying is the what you said about I work independently. I'm confident in myself, independent of what others think of me. I mean, I don't remember a lot of things, Rachel. I remember that as soon as you said, I was like, "Ooh, that's a brilliant one," because it gives us a connection to ourselves, but it separates us from the thing that makes us fearful. Is to be rejected by other people, is to be judged by other people, is to be consumed by other people's negative energy, right? And
Absolutely.
I think that that is this incredible brilliance that all coaching and healers bring is you are the very thing we're seeking for ourselves. So if you don't show up, we don't have anywhere else to look and go, well, can't be a tree because I'm not a tree, right? I can't. So the only other thing on television is chaos and craziness and negativity and anger and fighting. So then I guess I will emulate that. Like on a on a subconscious level, that's what we're choosing
Yeah.
into. So it's so vital for the likes of your enlightenment and energy to show up on a regular basis, even when you don't feel like it. Because for us, that's 90% of our day, right? Is like not doing it, not happening today.
Even
And
when
so
it's
if you don't show up, who are we looking for?
right, exactly. And believe me, I continue to I go through phases of what are they going to think and being afraid of being vulnerable. Like, I did my first book signing a few weeks ago, and
Yes.
I had resisted and resisted and resisted doing it because I hid behind the book, and I worried
Mhm.
about what people think. What would they reject? Would anybody show
Right.
up? It's an intentional work each day.
Yes.
It's not that I just woke up one day and I'm confident. And I use this analogy, you're not born out of the womb confident. It's about how do you cultivate that each day through ritual and discipline, awareness and intention. And then we can show up in a way that's grounded and centered.
Ugh, you just need to be in our pockets every day to remind us that. So tell us, I want to know, I'm sure, just like listeners, how do we get to be in your space more on a regular basis? Like, what are you offering out there? Or are you still working just mainly with corporate, or where have you evolved to today in your coaching?
Yeah, no, great question. And thank you. And as I pivot and as I continue to evolve, so I am opening up something and it's going to be launching in the next couple of weeks called the Resoul Labs. And it really is
Woo!
about a community and a movement to be able to talk through kind of the foundation of the book, the framework of the book, and how to
Mm,
resoul, how to resurge, and how do we bring more consciousness into the world. And
mm,
so you don't have to be a leader. You can be anybody. We're all leaders. We all are leaders, by the way. And when I
right.
talk about leaders, leaders of our own life, leaders of our families, leaders of our communities and or organizations coming together to be able to help to support each other, learn from each other, coach each other. And so there's a community that I'll be launching soon called the Resoul Labs based on the framework of the book. I still do individual coaching as well. I do speaking engagements and talk to organizations, lead retreats. So rachelsalzberg.com is where you can find me and you can sign up for the community. I would love to be able to. It's really about making a difference in people's lives collectively.
Yeah.
And I really love the idea of collective consciousness.
Oh,
Also, next generation of leaders. This is what we need,
right.
that grounded and centeredness and the tools and the frameworks necessary to be able to be more conscious within ourselves that makes more consciousness in the world.
Just always just such wisdom just spews out of you of like, because we do need it for ourselves before we can give
Right.
anything away. We have to
Right.
have it for ourselves. So I'm going to ask you a question as we're getting near the end of the conversation here that I ask all my guests.
Yeah.
If you're walking down the street and you walk into a cafe and you see 25-year-old Rachel,
Oh boy.
what would you say to her that she would actually hear?
That's a really good question because when you ask that question, I visualize myself after having just moved to Seattle, walking in Fremont down the street, saying to myself, and I was just afraid and scared, and I was just craving. And I thought to myself, I want to do something to resoul myself. I want to do something to resoul myself. And I am doing it. And so I would say to her, trust, you've got this, follow your heart. Your challenges are your biggest gifts. That's what you teach. That's what you give. That's what you guide
Mm,
on. Just show up and be you. And that's,
mm.
and to trust that. So, and I look back at her now and I'm super proud of where I am now and that I've got her.
That is so beautiful. Knowing, and you said it with such a smile on your face, is like, yeah, I can see that there's no regrets. There's no pain that wasn't worth it. There was no tunnel that
Mhm.
wasn't shut down. Every single journey was meant to happen, which I know that we all know, but to hear it again and again from different people in different
Yeah.
walks of life and different experiences, because that's what you said, the collective. I think I've spent so much of my life being in my own, even though I'm an extrovert and I have friends and I talk to people, but I've been in my own space and I love this community you're building. So I encourage all of you, because I'm definitely getting information on this community, because I'd love to be in conversations with other enlightened souls or souls that are
Yes,
struggling to get to the light.
exactly.
Because there are some days where it's a struggle to get to the light. So
Yeah.
I need to be in those spaces. I feel like I have this one really great friend. I just reach out to her so much. And I think one of these days she's going to be like, hey, can you find other people to talk to? Which I know she won't. But I think building these types of communities are
Yeah,
so important for us to have safe containers to
absolutely.
be, to
And
be whatever it is that we're being that
that's it.
moment.
Exactly.
So thank you.
And to raise each other's vibrations, right? And to raise that energy
Absolutely.
and collectively make a difference. And that's through resouling ourselves. That's my
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for bringing your light and showing up. And it's funny, I say that with such conviction because audience, before she got on, she's like, I didn't know if I was going to be here on time because she was out hiking on this beautiful piece of property she's on over there in Oregon. And I was like, but you showed up regardless, no matter glasses, no glasses, no, whatever we're inexperienced, because that's really what matters. Because I think we don't, at some point in conversation, we don't see the visual version of us anymore. We just connect via the soul. And that's all that really matters. At the end of the day,
absolutely.
that's what matters is
Totally.
your
Totally.
soul ignited my soul, and then our souls together, because here we are, the collective, right? The two of us is now going to impact two more souls, and those two souls impact two more souls. That's all that really it means to be who we are and to live out who we are. It doesn't have to be this big grand thing. None of us can all be Beyonce, people.
It is all that, and that's it. I think a friend of mine said to me, Rachel, one of the things that really strikes me about you is you love your morning coffee, you love your ritual, you love getting out in nature, and it's about soul connection. That's it. Those are the three
Yes.
simple things. It's not about living this grandiose life. It's like, and I was just having this conversation on the hike with my husband. What's important? It began back to the joys of life. It's authentic.
Yes.
That's what makes us.
Yes.
That's what supports us
Yes.
for having me. I really am
All
super grateful of that soulful connection. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.